Okay, if you go into the Settings app and you scroll down to the bottom of the table, you get the list of applications. The question we're going to address in this episode is how do you get your app listed in Settings and set up a set of settings that can be changed. Let's get started. I have a newly created application called AppSet. It's just a single window iPhone app, no modifications. I'm going to add a new file. And I want to go to iOS Resource. I want to select Settings Bundle. Just going to put it in the group, doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to run this. Build and run. Okay, it's just a blank view. If I go and do Home, go to Settings, scroll down to the bottom, we have AppSet. It's the name of the location. I didn't put an icon in, so we just get the default. Turns out the Settings bundle has some pre-set up stuff, which you can delete or modify. It's grouped. There's a name, enabled, a switch, and a slider. Let's take a look at what's in the bundle. Let's take a look inside the bundle. If I open up Settings Bundle, you'll see that there's an en.lproj, that's English for localization. We're going to ignore that for the time being. And we're going to look at root.plist. Well, this is a property list, and we have preference items here. You'll see that there's 4, 0 through 3, and it's what you saw when we looked in settings. We have a group, we have a text field, we have a toggle switch enabled. These things can be opened. Let's look up toggle switch. And I'm going to go down, I'm going to go outside here, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say show raw key values. In other words, I want to see things as they really are. This thing has a default value. It has a key. Now remember, these are dictionaries. A title and a type. So to actually access this thing, the key would be enable preference. Now, I can delete items here. Let's say we get rid of the slider. Inside, I can delete. I can also add. If I select the row, go outside. If I just hit return, I'll get an item 3, and I get to choose. Let's put our slider back. Of course, we'd have to fill in some information here. It doesn't have a key. It's got a default value, maximum, minimum, and the type is slider specifier. Now, before we go and actually do some more adding and changing these things, what I want to do is I want to show you how the information is accessed by the application. Okay, I'm in the application delegate.m. And the way in which you get the values for the settings is for our old friend NSUserDefaults. I've created a method here called getSettings. And the first thing I want to mention is I have found that if you don't actually reset NSUserDefaults, you may not actually get the current settings. I don't know why this is. Now, reset doesn't put it back to some value. It actually just forces the information into the non-volatile store. We get a reference to user defaults with our standard user defaults method on the class. And in this case, I'm just getting the value of the switch, and I'm outputting it in a log statement. So not a lot of complexity here. Using user defaults, bool for key. Now I grabbed this key out of what they provided by default for the switch enabled preference. Not the best name in the world, but we can live with it. Let's go ahead and run this. Simulator should pop up very soon. Or it actually is running. I got a log output here that just says that the switch is set. The value is 1. Now, what I want to point out is I called this method from when the application launches. All right. Application did finish launching. I also call it from application will enter foreground. So if I go into background and come back into foreground, it'll get called then also. Now, interesting to keep in mind is that will enter foreground doesn't get invoked the first time the application runs. Something worth noting. If I go over to the simulator and I go to home, I'm going to go over the settings, go down to our app, and I'm going to change the enabled switch to off. I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to run the app. Now before I do that, let me move this up. Okay, now the switch is off. I think we're going to stop here rather than adding new things to the settings. Probably going to do some more of that in a future episode, but in the interest in time, I like to keep these down to a reasonable length. I will put this simple application on the website.